Kyaw from Myanmar, so nice to meet you all. And I am here as a Pure Institute. That is a foundation that we've been helping the fishers, farmers, and also the people who are dependent on natural resources. I come from Myanmar, of course. I love my country, and it's a beautiful country. But these days, when you heard about Myanmar, I think the first thing that might come to your mind is the tragedy in Rakhine State, right? It really made me sad because it wasn't long ago that when I go out, people think about Myanmar as a beautiful golden land with a lot of smiles, but not really anymore because of the tragedy in Rakhine State. And why these things happens? Of course, Myanmar is well endowed with a lot of natural resources, land, fishery, forestry, and everyone is fully dependent on natural resources. Because we didn't have nothing much to rely on. We've been living under military government for nearly 60 years, but still we have a lot of military control over the natural resources. And a lot of people have been left out of their access to natural resources, particularly land grabbing. You might have also heard it's a very significant phenomenon of land grabbing happened in Myanmar since the colonial time. A lot of natural resources are centrally controlled, and many people have been left out of resources. And when they are left out of resources, that's actually how people are trapped into poverty. And that really frustrates a lot of people, particularly ethnic minorities. And that also lead to a lot of prolonged conflicts and deep poverty in Myanmar. And many people, including the family, even not just only left out of their natural resources, even left out of from their home, and a lot of tragedies. And the one that you might heard from the news about Rakhine is the epicenter of all the tragedies in Myanmar, along with other conflict in other areas that is not even known. So these kind of situations, it also driven down in other countries. You might think, oh, it might be about religion or culture, and all these about conflict, but nothing. It's about how that distribution of natural resources have been unequal because a lot of people have been left out of poverty, and that's why a lot of ethnic groups have been demanding for their self-determination and federal union as a kind of one of the goals. And there are a lot of armed groups stay fighting for self-determination just only to regain their access to natural resources. In that situations, how do we help? Because that cannot be just done simply alone by empowering community. A lot of scenario people do that by empowering community so that they have to demand for their own rights. And we did that, and we had already failed in the name of right-based approach, and that even sometimes end up with deeper conflict and more tragedy. So therefore we need to really think about how we can really help. How can we really be positive about helping out of people poverty in a new way, and how we really start with a new ideology. And that is also here we're learning a new thinking, a new ideology that help us how we take action with a new ideology. This is how really change happen. That is the way we think, and we take it as a fishery as an entry. And why fishery? Because fishery is one of the key economic activity in Myanmar, but at the same time a lot of poor people dependent on their main food, and it also very important in terms of the way that how we can really help the small-scale fishers to regain access to fishery. That's why we take the entry of the fishery by actually supporting how we can really help that small-scale fishers to regain access to fishing ground. But it's easy to say that how we can help them. But there are also bigger groups who are benefiting from this system because they are in power and influence, they control the fishing ground. Therefore, how we can really help them to really regain access is about how we can really do the better job, and by actually looking at the way that how we can facilitate different actors to get really together, about how really they think differently. So we actually use political economy study to be able to understand the incentive and interest of the different groups, how we can really help to really think about the pathway for reform. So by working with different community members, parliamentarians, and also the Department of Fishery, of course. So by bringing them together, how they can really learn a new thinking. So in terms of how other countries has been progressing, like in Cambodia and Thailand, community fishery has been also one of the pioneer lessons. So therefore we learn from that, we actually facilitate to be able to help those all actors to think differently about the way that how they can really change. Of course, the new incentive is everybody wants bigger fish and more fish, right? So that's the kind of thinking behind it, to really think about the partnership forum, to really bring together in the way that how we can really help think differently about what are the drivers, what are the things that make actually people get out of poverty, and we actually come up with the law is a mechanism that only enable a few people to be controlled access by having a tender system, because it's not very open, only a few people keep gaining access. So we have to change that by actually looking at the law, but how the MPs and also the Department of Fishery will have new interest in changing that law that will provide more people to have equal access. Of course, then we have to really create an inclusive lawmaking process that actually help the community also to lobby the way that how they actually can regain their access, by actually helping them to be able to understand with the easy language materials. And through this process, and we are able to help to pass the new laws in ERD and Rakhine. This is a significant data areas. So one, they regain the access, particularly about the ownership. One, they feel the ownership about the process, natural resources, and they care and they share all the natural resources. Even over 7,000 acres of community-led mangrove conservation has been possible in this area. Not only about the conservation, but people are now actually sharing their resources, benefiting. 1.5 million have been enjoying the benefit by regaining access. And also this has been actually talked about in the national conference about how peace is also possible through conservation. The final thing I just want to end up here is actually the quote. It's a military MP who actually present the law in the parliament. So everything can be possible with our collective efforts. Now we are scaling up, we need your support, and I will be looking forward to learning from you all. Thank you very much. Okay. Okay, any questions?